hearing? There is no answer. Are you hearing, students?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
oh, okay. Now, some examples of names of aminoglycosides are gentamicin, streptomycin, tobramycin, amikacin, kanamycin, and neomycin. Now, what is the mechanism of action of the aminoglycoside? Now, there are 3 steps for the action of the drug. First of all, drug blocks the formation of initiation complex. First is blockage of initiation complex formation, which is initiation complex formation. The initiation complex is composed of RNA, transfer RNA, messenger RNA at 30 S ribosomal subunit. Now, second is drug, then the drug induces misreading of messenger RNA. Now, what occurs? That the drug, that is aminoglycoside, these causes non-functional or toxic protein formation. These causes non-functional or toxic protein formation, and this is due to incorporation of incorrect amino acids into the peptide chain, and this occurs because the drug, that is aminoglycosides, these induces misreading of messenger RNA. Okay, now non-functional or toxic protein formation occurs. That was the second step. The third step is that the drug, that is the aminoglycosides, causes breakup of polysomes into non-functional monosomes. And what is monosome? That is messenger RNA chain with only a single ribosome on it is called monosome. Now I will represent it with the picture. First of all, normal bacterial cell. There is normal bacterial cell. Now in the normal bacterial cell, there is initiation complex formation, which is formed normally in the normal bacterial cell. While the drug treated bacterial cell, there is blockage of initiation complex formation. There is blockage of initiation complex formation, and this is represented by the negative arrow, which shows the block of initiation complex formation. Now the second step is that messenger RNA and transfer RNA and ribosomal subunit, these form normal protein synthesis in the normal bacterial cell. While in the drug treated cell, what happens? That when amino acid attaches to the 30th subunit of ribosome, then amino acids will cause defect in the frame of messenger RNA, and this defect in the frame of this amino acid will cause defect in the frame of reading sequence of messenger RNA, and now the strand will be read in wrong order for putting amino acids in a specific pattern. Okay. Now in the second step, when the strand will be read in wrong order for putting amino acids in a specific pattern, then this will result in non-functional protein synthesis. This will result in non-functional protein synthesis. While in the normal bacterial cell, there is the functional and normal protein synthesis occurs. Next, when the wrong protein synthesis or non-functional protein synthesis occurs, then there will be termination of premature protein synthesis. Now there is blockage of translocation, and while in the normal bacterial cell, the peptide chain synthesis occurs smoothly. Now this is the processes, these are the steps for the mechanism of action of aminoglycosides. Now mechanism of resistance. Why the drug is inactivated, aminoglycosides? Why these are inactivated? There are various enzymes. There are various enzymes which causes inactivation of the drug. For example, transferase enzyme or the other enzyme which causes adenylation, acetylation, or phosphorylation of the drug. So these all enzymes, these are produced by the bacteria, and these enzymes, these inactivate the drug for its action on the bacterial cell. Now, second can be resistance, that there is impaired entry of aminoglycoside into the cell. That is there is mutation of proteins which are involved in transfer process of the drug into the bacterial cell. So there will be impaired entry of aminoglycoside into the cell because there is mutation of proteins which are involved in transfer process of the drug. Or it may be due to the aerobic conditions which are not available, because aerobic conditions, these are necessary for the action of the aminoglycosides. Now, third is there is mutation in the 30S ribosomal subunit, which is mainly the receptor proteins, and here the aminoglycoside acts, that is on the 30S ribosomal subunit. When mutation occurs, then the action of aminoglycoside cannot occur. Now, what are clinical uses of aminoglycosides? Now, this is important. Aminoglycosides having action on various types of bacteria. For example, number one, first of all, there must be aerobic conditions and aerobic bacteria. Action on the aerobic gram-negative rod. Serious infections which are caused by the aerobic gram-negative rod. These include E. coli, Enterobacter, Klebsiella, Proteus, Providentia, Pseudomonas, Haemophilus influenza, Shigella, Salmonella, etc. These are all the gram-negative rods. These act in aerobic conditions, and the infections, these are very serious infections which are caused by these bacteria. These are pneumonia, for example, pneumonia, UTI, neonatal sepsis, and sepsis. Now, for example, individually, that is Klebsiella, it can cause resistant type of pneumonia having thick sputum and which is not cured with the penicillin. Then next, Proteus, it can cause UTI. Then Pseudomonas can cause UTI, Pseudomonas, pneumonic sepsis. Then E. coli can cause neonatal meningitis and diarrhea, etc. Salmonella, typhoid, Shigella can cause dysentery. So these are some examples of the bacteria which can cause such type of diseases. So these all can be treated by that is gram-negative rods. Serious infections, especially when suspicion of sepsis or drug resistance develops, then these are all cured with the aminoglycosides. Now the second is, first was the gram-negative bacteria. Now in the second one is gram-positive coverage, and this is gram-positive foci. Gram-positive foci, especially two types of bacteria, that is Staphylococcus and Streptococcus group of drugs. Now these two. Now important is in this case that we can extend gram-positive coverage, and we can take benefit of synergism between these two drugs. So what is synergism? Because each drug facilitates to each other, both facilitates to each other. So there will be synergism between these two types of the drugs. We combine aminoglycoside with beta-lactam antibiotics to cover the gram-positive bacteria. Now what are these gram-positive foci? These are two types of bacteria, especially, first of all, gram-positive foci, that is Streptococcus. Now, among the Streptococcus, there are variety of the groups, that is group A, B, C, and D. Now, in the group A, B, and C, we give penicillin, and patient can be treated well. While in the case of group D, that is Streptococcal group D type, these are hardy organisms, so these cannot be treated with the penicillin. So we can give aminoglycosides in combination therapy along with the penicillin or beta-lactam antibiotics. Now these groups D are hardy organisms, and these are further divided into non-enterococcus and enterococcus. An example of enterococcus is Enterococcus faecalis and fecum. Now Enterococcus faecalis and fecum, these are the normal flora which are found in the colon, and uh, these are normal flora which are found in colon, while then these enter into the urinary bladder, into the bile duct, or into the CVS. Then these can cause infections here, causing UTI, causing the bile duct infection. And in the case of CVS, these can cause enterococcal endocarditis. Okay, these can cause enterococcal endocarditis. Strep D type can cause enterococcal endocarditis. Now, here aminoglycosides in the combination therapy along with beta-lactam antibiotics, these are effective for enterococcal endocarditis. Now, next type of streptococcal organisms is viridans streptococci. These viridans streptococci, these are found in oral cavity normally, but which affects the patient having already valvular disease. These the patient having valvular disease. Now, in such patients, when dental procedure occurs, this can cause bacteremia and can also affect on the heart, and infective endocarditis can occur in this case. So, aminoglycosides are again effective in the case of viridans streptococci. Viridans streptococci infection. So, first of all, we have done gram-negative rods. Then second step, gram-positive cocci, and in the gram-positive cocci, streptococcal infections, which are of two types: enterococcal endocarditis and viridans streptococci. Now, the next is in the case of gram-positive cocci, infections which are caused by the staphylococcus, especially Staphylococcus aureus organisms, and these Staphylococcus aureus, these are found in the patients. These are causing infection in people sharing same needles or in cases of surgery. In fact, uh, infection can occur from can enter from the skin to the nose to the blood, and normal valves can be affected. Also, in IV drug uses, this Staphylococcus aureus can affect the valve. So in this case, again, aminoglycoside plus, in this case, we can use aminoglycoside along with tetracycline. In the staphylococci infection, that is causing staphylococcus endocarditis, we can use aminoglycosides along with tetracycline. While in gram-positive infections, we have used beta-lactam antibiotics along with aminoglycosides. Now next is especially individually streptomycin, and also in uh, among all the groups of the aminoglycosides, we can use penicillin along with aminoglycosides for enterocarditis. Streptomycin and other aminoglycosides are used, as I have said. Streptomycin, when given in combination with penicillin, it is more effective against enterocarditis. That is gram-positive cocci, which I have already discussed. Now, streptomycin also given in cases of tuberculosis, in cases of plague, and tularemia and brucellosis. These are gram-negative infections. So, tuberculous infection and non-tuberculous infections, these all infections, these are treated with the streptomycin. Now, tularemia especially is caused by the Francisella gram-negative rods in the rabbit hunting season. So, aminoglycoside, especially streptomycin, is treated with these in these conditions. Other clinical uses, that is neomycin and kanamycin, these are for topical and oral use. Neomycin is used to eliminate bowel flora in the cases of hepatic encephalopathy and in the preparation of elective bowel surgery. So in this case, only infection is washed out and effect is only local. There is no systemic absorption of the drug in the cases of preparation of elective bowel surgery, and usually we can combine with the erythromycin, neomycin along with erythromycin to eliminate bowel flora in these cases. Next, clinical uses spectinomycin. Spectinomycin used in gonorrhea and in the patients who are allergic to penicillin and whose gonococci are resistant to other drugs. So this is all for the clinical uses. Next is pharmacokinetics of the aminoglycosides. Now, aminoglycosides having very poor oral absorption. Why? Because their structure is having two or more amino sugars that are joined into glycosidic linkage to the hexose nucleus. As these are sugars, so these are water soluble. Sugars, so these are water soluble. These are polar, cannot absorb from the GIT, cannot cross blood-brain barrier, not metabolized by the liver. So we have need to adjust its source in the renal patients. Aminoglycosides, these are excreted unchanged via the kidney. Entire dose is excreted in the feces after oral administration. So these are given parenterally, intramuscular or intravenously. Intramuscular, well absorbed, giving peak concentration in the blood within 30 to 90 minutes. And IV, usually administered IV as a 30 to 60 minutes infusion. Now the question is how the aminoglycosides are given either in the devices dose or once daily dose. Now, once daily dose is preferred mostly. Why? Because aminoglycosides have concentration dependent killing. That is, increasing concentration will kill increased proportion of bacteria and at more rapid rate. More bacteria and more increased proportion of bacteria are killed and with more speed. So once daily dose, that is single injection, is given because as the drug reaches higher peak plasma concentration, so maximum effect will be achieved. So with this, we can conclude from this that therapeutic effect is depending upon the amount of the drug which is given. Next, this will also decrease the side effects with the single dose. This will also decrease side effects because there will not be a constant therapeutic level of drug for a long time. Now, post-antibiotic effects. It is related with the daily dosing, once daily dosing or multiple small doses. Now, another reason why a single dose is more effective and aminoglycosides having better efficacy when administered as a single dose than in multiple doses. Another reason why it is so, because aminoglycosides are having post-antibiotic effects. That is, antibacterial activity, their antibacterial activity persists beyond the time during which measurable drug is present. And this is called post-antibiotic effect of the aminoglycosides. So we can say that therapeutic effect of the drug is not time dependent because therapeutic effect is going on beyond the time during which measurable drug is present in the blood. And this is also called post-antibiotic effect of aminoglycosides. In contrast to the therapeutic effect, toxicity is both dependent upon the time and also upon the concentration. While therapeutic effect was depending only on the concentration of the drug, toxicity is depending both on the time and on the concentration. On both, it is depending. Now, toxicity does not occur unless a certain threshold concentration is achieved in the blood. The time above this threshold concentration is critical, and this threshold concentration is above 2 microgram per milliliter. Now, the time above this threshold will be greater with multiple small doses. Now, remember the time factor on which toxicity depends. It is greater with multiple small doses of the drug than single dose, single and large dose. So, the time with single and large dose will be less for the toxicity, and with the multiple small doses, the time will be greater. So toxicity will be increased. So the single daily dose is more effective and less toxic. So we can conclude. What we can conclude that therapeutic effect is depending upon the concentration of the drug, which is achieved with full once daily dose, while therapeutic effect is not depending upon time due to post-antibiotic effect. That is, the therapeutic effect remains effective beyond the time during which measurable drug is present in the blood, while toxicity was proportional to both time and also concentration. That is, with multiple small doses, time factor will be increased for a threshold concentration of toxicity, and this toxicity level, so more toxicity occurs with multiple small doses. Some exceptions when we can consider whether multiple doses are given or whether once daily dose is given. These exceptions, these are when combination therapy of endocarditis, and in the cases of pregnancy or pediatric patients. Now, once daily dosing is safe, effective in acute renal failure with septic shock because toxicity will be less. With single once daily dosing must also avoid overdose. इसमें overdose भी नहीं करनी, ये सोचते हुए कि once कर रहे हैं. Normal half-life of aminoglycoside in serum is 2 to 3 hours, increases up to 24 to 48 hours in renal function impairment, and removed via the hemodialysis and peritoneal dialysis. Now, side effects which are very important of the aminoglycoside. 3-4 side effects important. First of all, ototoxic effects. These are auditory. These effects are auditory and cochlear. Auditory cochlear damage. Now, deafness is permanent. Deafness is permanent. Especially high frequency loss occurs initially. Initially, cochlear toxicity is asymptomatic, and then it can be detected only via the audiometry, and tinnitus occurs first, that is ringing bells, sounds of ringing bells, then appears, then followed by the progressive hearing loss. On stopping the drug, tinnitus disappears in 4 to 10 days, but frequency loss persists. So it is irreversible phenomena because 8th cranial nerve is damaged, so irreversible loss. Second is vestibular damage. Now, the auditory damage mostly occurs with the neomycin, with kanamycin, and with amikacin. These are all which can causes auditory damage more than other group of drugs. Vestibular damage, especially with the streptomycin and gentamicin, and it can be represented by the vertigo, ataxia, and loss of balance. If the drug is stopped here, in the case of vestibular damage, if the drug is stopped here, then at this stage, then it can pass into chronic stage, and then partial recovery can occur within 1 to 2 years. Now, another is nephrotoxicity, that is occur mostly with the neomycin, N for nephro and N for neomycin. So neomycin mostly causes nephrotoxicity, and there is the rising serum creatinine level or reduced creatinine clearance, and totally reversible phenomena provided the drug is promptly discontinued. Now, ototoxicity, nephrotoxicity is most likely to occur when therapy is continued for more than 5 days. That is long therapy, then higher doses, then in the elderly patient, then in the cases of renal insufficiency, because acute tubular damage can occur with the in the cases of nephrotoxicity, then concurrent uses with loop diuretics, then other nephrotoxic antimicrobial agents like vancomycin or amphotericin. So these are all the nephrotoxic effects. Now, next is the neurotoxicity. Neurotoxicity is at very high doses, aminoglycoside can cause curare-like effect with neuromuscular block, results in respiratory paralysis, which is reversible. This is reversible by at high, very high doses. Aminoglycoside produces curare-like effect with neuromuscular block, results in respiratory paralysis, which is reversible by calcium gluconate, which is given promptly or along with or with the neostigmine. So the effect of neuromuscular transmission, that they block the neuromuscular transmission and inhibit acetylcholine release from the motor end plate, resulting into the apnea and muscular paralysis. So this is the neurotoxic effect. Next is streptomycin, especially side effects of the streptomycin is strictly contraindicated in the pregnancy as it causes deafness, ototoxicity in the newborn. Also causes streptomycin pain at site of injection, local action of the aminoglycoside. Then other uh, minor side effects can be hypersensitivity reactions or allergic reactions can occur with the aminoglycoside as it is actinomycin derivative. So hypersensitivity reactions can occur with the aminoglycoside. Now there are some differences in the different members of the aminoglycoside group of drugs. On the individual level, we are discussing each separately. First of all, streptomycin. Streptomycin, first line anti-TB drug. First line of anti-TB drug, but it is usually combined with the other other TB drugs. So, first line of anti-TB drug, streptomycin, we can combine with other anti-tubercular drugs. Then streptomycin can be used in the other gram-negative infections, tularemia, brucellosis, pneumonic plague. These are non-tuberculous infections, gram-negative infections. Then number 3, it can be streptomycin can be used for the enterococcal endocarditis. That was due to streptomycin gram gram-positive foci, Faecalis and Faecium bacteria, and viridient streptococcal endocarditis infections. These are all gram-positive foci infections. And here we can give penicillin along with streptomycin. Now, why we give penicillin along with streptomycin? Because they can facilitate, there can be facilitation for the entry of the drug into the bacterial cell. Because penicillin is the drug which can provide low pH and anaerobic environment, which can counteract low pH and anaerobic environment that facilitate diffusion of aminoglycosides into the bacterial cells. So that was for the streptomycin. Now second is gentamicin. Gentamicin is mostly active against gram-negative road infections, which I have discussed about. that is serious gram-negative infections. Then gram-positive cocci, again these are the same for the enterococcal, streptococcal and streptococcal infections, gram-positive cocci. But gentamicin is not effective in the case of tuberculous infections. Next, third one is neomycin, only topical. Reason being it is nephrotoxic. So topical ointments, that is beciprocin, polymyxin B, these are ointments which are used locally. So neomycin only local action, but it is having all the broad spectrum of action, but we not use this. Only local use of the neomycin is done. Then next is the freomycetin. Freomycetin resemble neomycin. Freomycetin resemble neomycin for being nephrotoxic. So used topically for eye, ear and skin infections. Resemble neomycin for being nephrotoxic, so used topically for eye, ear and skin infections. And it is also not used systemically. It is not used systemically. Next is amikacin. Amica, M-E. So we can remember from ME, that is mom. Mom protects their children uh, from everywhere. So amikacin, that is mom, ME, has broad spectrum activity amongst all aminoglycosides. Amikacin is resistant to bacterial inactivating enzymes. It is also active against TB and also against nosocomial gram-negative activity. Now next is tobramycin. Tobramycin is like gentamicin, but better against Pseudomonas infections, that is Pseudomonas aeruginosa, causing lower respiratory infections, which is complicated any case with for example, with cystic fibrosis. We can use the tobramycin. Then next is paramomycin. P for paramomycin and P for the purpose we are using against, that is against protozoal infections. So the paramomycin active against the protozoal infections and for the intestinal amoebiasis and giardiasis. Parenterally given for visceral leishmaniasis. And next is natilmacin. Natilmacin is resistant to bacterial inactivating enzymes, so used in gentamicin resistant cases. That was natilmacin. So we can also take all the antibiotics names for classification of the aminoglycosides from this chart. So that was the end of the lecture. Thank you. Any question?